What's going on, you guys? It's Nia Simone here. I'm back with another video. Today we are going to be talking about week 1 in the Big Brother house. I'm going to film this a little bit differently. So if you haven't watched my other video, I did do a predictions and reaction video to the cast photos. And I will say, I'm going to give myself a little bit of credit. I was fairly accurate with most of my assessments, so I will give myself a pat on the back for that. Week 1 was just crazy. I know the live feeds have been very active and I share everybody's sentiments. Sorry, if you see me looking over here, it's because I have all of my notes. I think I share in everybody's sentiments in that we really do miss the flashbacks. Like, at least the first couple of moments, like I would say maybe week 1 through week 4 or 5 in the game, are so crucial and so vital. There's so many conversations happening, everybody's trying to get to know each other, that having the flashback or being able to replay on the live feeds is so important. And I didn't realize how vital it was, or how much we've been spoiled until now, because I will admittedly say I cannot be on the live feeds all the time. I have a regular 9 to 5 like the most of us. Being on the feeds constantly, either they're not showing certain conversations or certain conversations are happening at the same time, is just really difficult to keep up with everything, and then be able to react to it, but also share that information with you. So I would say Taryn Armstrong, Orly Streams, there's a couple of YouTubers out there that have been literally dedicated like blood, sweat, and tears day and night. But I think between watching the feeds when I can and also getting like the little clips from Twitter, that has really given me a lot of context, or allowed me to have a better educated assessment going into the episodes, especially since, I don't know if you share my sentiment, but CBS does not do a good job of showing context when they edit the episodes. I won't say that they are editing anybody favorably, because I think picking favorites, I know it happens. I just can't prove that it happens for this show, especially as I'm not a day 1 season 1 watcher like some of you are. So I will say that they might have their favorites behind the scenes, but the episodes may have the viewers make an assessment that there are favorites just based off of how they're edited. So I guess we'll just jump right into it and talk about the elephant in the room, the Matt and Angela situation that went down this week. I think that's a prime example of, I don't think it was edited favorably for Matt, because they did kind of start off the episode before saying that, well, you did kind of threaten Angela's game. However, it leaves out a lot of context. So Angela had mentioned that after that conversation that we didn't get to see on feeds because it occurred the night that Angela won HOH, they left out the fact that even though he did threaten her game, he does have crazy eyes, like on, and I'll link a picture here so you can see, whenever he talks to people, he just has an innate, and it's totally subconscious, that he like widens his eyes when he communicates to people. So I think pairing that, as well as, you know, the conversation in which he said, if you put me up and I pull myself off, then I'm coming after you for next week. I think she could have been intimidated by that. But would I say that he actually threatened her? No, absolutely not. It wasn't anything that rose to the level of like an actual physical threat, which is what I think she kind of implied when she went downstairs and like had her outburst with the group. I think he threatened her game. I think he is a threat if he stays tonight, but I don't think it's a bad thing that he is on the block In terms of her game, obviously she put him up. Angela's more of a threat to her own game because of the way, and her and Lisa kind of share a similar problem in the way that they communicate with other people. She did mention that, and I'm talking about Angela, that one of the things that led to her outburst was lack of sleep, and I totally can understand in that house. I had lack of sleep trying to keep up with all of the freaking live feeds, so I can imagine as an active participant in the house, you know, you don't want to miss anything, and then the paranoia that she kind of creates in her head, and these non-existent like enemies that she has when people are actually trying to work with her in terms of alliances, is not going to do well for next week, especially since she can't win HOH again. She's on her own, and she hasn't really done what at least the first HOH week 1 winner should do, is realign themselves and make other people the target for next week when you can't play. I think inevitably her mouth is probably gonna be her downfall and not her gameplay. Even though I will say her assessments and her reads in the house are always wrong. Like, she thinks that people that are supposed to be working with her aren't working with her. The people that she wants to work with want nothing to do with her. She had a conversation with Lisa in the bathroom, and in the HOH bathroom, and she's like, I need a best friend, I need you. And Lisa was just kind of like, I want nothing to do with you because you're like about to blow up my game. I think Angela's issue is going to be Angela for the remainder of this game and however long she has left, unfortunately. She has an opportunity to make it further than expected, but it relies on her ability to actually start making and creating opportunities for herself. I think where she is right now, she creates opportunities and it's all based off of luck. So like, for example, the fact that Matt, I think he kind of put his foot in his mouth this week, and if, as expected, based off of the live feeds, he should be the one going home today if he's on the block. And that's also entirely his own doing, partially because he doesn't listen or communicate with people to listen. He communicates so that you can hear what he's saying and doesn't take the opportunity to receive the information that's coming back. So he talks to people just to talk or to hear himself talk, and not really actually talks to people for guidance or, you know, trying to build a relationship. Matt brought up his mom first in the argument. Angela responded to it. That is absolutely true. I think where he messed up is in his one-on-ones after that. He basically would have these like 1 hour, 2 hour conversations with people in which he, like, even one of his conversations with Lisa, he told her, I want you to tell Angela to give me another apology, but make it include my mom's name instead of loved ones, and make it so that it's public and that she says my name in the apology. And like, he had very specific guidelines, even when she apologized to him after the blow up, which we may or may not see on tonight's episode. Wanted Lisa to direct Angela to give him a very specific apology. And it's like, Matt, it doesn't work that way. If someone is genuinely apologizing, then you take it whichever way it comes. You either accept it or reject it. And after that conversation, it seems like you accepted it, but you didn't like the terms of how she apologized. So all of a sudden it was an issue again. So he would go and vent to people about that and ask them not for their input or whether he was overreacting, but I think he was trying to use it a little bit as a manipulation tactic, where if someone was sympathetic to him in the conversation, like, you're bringing up my mom, right? I'm very emotional about it. You're judging my character. That's something that would make anybody sensitive to another person. However, I think the way that he says it is like, I'm leaning into me being the victim in this situation, but also I'm hoping that I can make you feel sympathetic towards me enough where it equates to a vote for me to stay in this house. And I'm gonna try and guilt trip you and make you feel like, well, she attacked my mom, she attacked my character. Obviously, you wouldn't be on her side. And if you are on her side, well, I can't respect you for that. I can't continue working with you in this game. But reasonably, you would be on my side because that's such a terrible thing. And, you know, likely if Angela in retaliation puts me up on the block, which is what happened, and I think he kind of expected it, then reasonably you would vote for me to stay because you were so pissed off about the situation that happened to me. Like, if you were in my shoes, you would totally vote to keep me. I think he missed the mark on that because a lot of people were like, yeah, we're sympathetic that what she said and how that conversation or yelling match went down, we would have never done. We can understand that you feel like your character is in question and that she brought up your mom, and your mom is something that's very sensitive and heartfelt towards you. However, I'm not keeping you in this house for my own game unless you give me a positive on why I should be working with you. The emotion side of it does not equate to gameplay. And I think that position that he was trying to take might have worked had he known these people for longer than a week, but I think more people are smarter than that, and he just doesn't, it's not connecting in his head that people are playing emotion versus game. They don't know you, they don't know your mom, and maybe the conversations that you're having with these people, they understand that you're trying to manipulate them based off of their sympathy for you in the situation. And because you're trying to do that, it makes people not like him even more. When he has these conversations with people, he browbeats his point. And then when they try and say something, he's like, well, let me talk to you about from my perspective and what's happening to me. And it's just, it feels very self-centered. And I don't think he's relating to people on a level that he needs to, especially since, as we now know, he's on the block. I hope if he does go tonight that he watches and reflects on this, or at least sees some of the clips, because unfortunately, like I said before, there's no flashback, so he can't really, I guess, see for himself unless he's on like Twitter or somebody sending him stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about the game itself and how it's set for this year with the twists. The upvote downvote situation kind of had an opposite effect to what was intended. I think right now the house kind of agreeing that Chelsea and Cedric being safe for the week because they got the downvotes actually worked out better than the advantages, because it allows them to have the opportunity to explore their options in the house regarding alliances with other people. But it also gives them a sense of deniability in terms of how the votes shake up. So let's say Matt goes home on tonight's eviction. It sets them up pretty well for next week, because you can't be pissed off about a vote that I had no involvement in. You know, very few people have correctly identified who has the power apps. I think Matt is the only one that seems to be the closest, partially because Mackenzie told him that she has a power app, so he already knew from the very beginning. But also he was able to deduce that either Quinn or Joseph has the other one. Since Mackenzie kind of told him exactly what her power is, again, if he were just using basic deductive reasoning, he would be able to figure out that the power will likely be something related to noms. I think it also is very interesting in terms of Quinn, how he would use the power app, where he said he would hack his own HOH. He would win HOH or try to win HOH, which does seem very likely because a lot of people are planning on throwing the competition. Don't know if that's still an idea on people's minds, but at least 3 people said that they would throw it this week. But if he does win HOH, he would hack his own HOH. And I think I disagree from Terran specifically. I watch his live feeds updates, and I understand that it kind of wastes the power. Like, it's seen as a 4-week, basically like a immunity idol in the house. There is something in that it's so unexpected that no one would expect it. And I think that's for Quinn, and why I think his power app, even though it's so powerful, is kind of a disadvantage, is the longer that he has it, it becomes more detrimental because there's less people. As people are solidifying their alliances week to week to week, so week 2 to week 4, because he didn't use it this week, it gets harder to blame it on somebody else. So the idea that he would use it to hack his own HOH actually makes perfect sense to me. And I don't think that's actually a bad idea. I would like to see how he ends up, you know, using it, and whether they would be able to figure it out based off of the fact that they haven't figured out that he has the second power app. I don't think that they would be that intuitive, so I think he's going to be okay either way. But I don't think it's a bad idea to hack your own HOH and play behind the scenes as a hacker. It actually probably would help him in the future, especially if he wins HOH. I would gun for it in the second week and do it then, because you can blame it on more people as there's more people in the house. Speaking of alliances and power apps and all that stuff, I think there are too many alliances to name right now. Like, there's just alliances. I don't know if you follow Dolfika, if you do, on Twitter, but she always creates alliance maps every season, and it just looks like a mess of lines and like octopus arms going from each person, because everybody's pretty much in separate alliances. You have the Andersons, I have it written down, you have the Andersons, the Pentagon. I think yesterday I was watching the feeds, Quinn, Lisa, and T-Court were talking about naming their own alliance yesterday. So there's just so many, I guess, variations of alliances with different combinations of people. Is kind of like COVID. Like, there's so many variants going around the house that I'm actually interested to see how that plays out and which alliances actually end up being the lasting ones. I envision more of a Lisa Angela split than a Matt Angela split, especially if he goes home this week. And I just realized that I don't have my contacts in, so I'm gonna have to like film the rest of this video because I gotta do my eye makeup next, but I'll just go over what I have left and then come back once I do that. Yeah, it's squaring up to be more of a Lisa Angela split, and I want to see how that shakes up going into next week and beyond. This AI arena twist is also something that I'm looking to see how this plays out. CBS or Big Brother or whoever, Viacom, powers that be, have been getting a lot of flack, especially with the success of the reindeer games last year, because they don't have very equitable comps. And it seems like with the way that this season has been going so far, it's still very early. Although if I had to guess, because the darling boy or he assumes that he's a darling boy, but America's favorite, Matt, is kind of on the block this week. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm calling it from now, if they do for the AI arena that competition where they have to run back and forth and like get the stuff from the ball pit and bring it over and like get 3 things or whatever and bring them over into the thing. Like, Or that competition that they did last season where they had to drop the balls. Like, you got a specific ball from the ball pit, and you had to drop the ball in the tube. I could see them doing that. I don't think that they'll do a memory comp tonight, but I'm a real fan of, I think it was BB17, where they did that comp with the mixed up, it was like a collage of everybody's pictures on the memory ball, and they had to run back and forth and secure whose pictures made up that photo. I really like that comp. I think that's something that they should bring back this season, but I feel like it's gonna be something quick, which means that most of the night is going to be geared towards the actual playing of the comp and the nominations of who the final two will be sitting on the block. So I'm also interested to see if they're going to show that on feeds, or if it's just going to be like a, hey, wait 3 hours until the West Coast has seen the episode, and now we're gonna show the winner, and you're gonna know who won HOH because of the key, and you still have to wait for the episode to see what comp it was and how the person won. The fact that they're not leaning so far into physicality, and it seems more equitable, I will really enjoy seeing how that AI arena thing does shake up. If I were a producer, what would I do? I think, as they kind of gave us a hint in the Power App situation with how, and I don't even know if I'm saying this right, but how they're able to use it for, or it's valid for 4 weeks. I think the same thing is going to be happening. This AI arena thing with the 3 nominees and playing the AI arena comp is going to last for about 4 weeks. It's kind of hard to nominate 3 people every week when week 2 you're already like nominating a quarter of the house. We saw that this week. Angela put up 3 noms, which is the minimum requirement right now. Lisa took herself off and she had to place another nominee. So essentially you're nominating 4 people as an HOH as opposed to 2, possibly 3. So I'll say maximum of 4 people every week as opposed to a maximum of 3 every week in a normal situation. And I think that puts a bigger target on your back. But I think, and this leads me into the talks around throwing competitions, it is detrimental to throw comps. Chelsea, Cam, and Cedric were in the HOH room talking about, yeah, we're gonna throw comps this week and we want to throw them and let other people win them. And it's stupid. It's stupid because you don't want to be a casualty of sitting on the block. Sitting on the block this year is more detrimental than any other season because you can inadvertently go home, essentially, if you're put up next to somebody that's more likable than you. And I think as the numbers dwindle, you run the risk of being put up. So we'll use this week as an example. It's very likely that you could go home on a fluke just based off of how this AI arena comp shakes out with the other people left in the house. And I would think that in turn, winning HOH is even more important because you want to be able to control the noms. You don't know if your allies, especially after week 1, are gonna stick to their alliances, especially because there's so many and everybody has been aligning with each other. And you could inadvertently be throwing a competition that would have kept you safe in the house. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Logically, you would be going for every single comp, but also shoring up your alliances and making sure that there's no absolute way that you could touch the block, at least for as long as that extra nom rule for the game is in play. Throwing an HOH comp is non-negotiable. Throwing a veto now, however, to keep the nominations the same, that's up in the air, but definitely not for an HOH. What does this say for week 2? I don't know. Going into this week, I think a lot is still up in the air, which is very exciting because I feel like going into the live eviction episode, sometimes you're like, I already know who's going home because I watch live feeds this week and it seems like everybody's pretty set on sending this person home. You just don't know who's going home. You're finding out with the house based off of whoever's sitting there. Who's gonna go home. I think it makes a situation for people to flip votes so much better because you can flip and really use the case of, oh my gosh, I didn't know where the house was going. I didn't know what people were voting for. I voted for the wrong person. And like, even on the Celebrity Big Brother, it reminds me of Meta World Peace when he thought he was voting for the person to stay, not the person to go home, and like completely didn't understand the rules. I think you could have a situation where you could like really lean into the fact like, oh my gosh, I didn't know who was staying and I just voted because I had to vote for someone. I think that would be very funny to see play out. I think the showmances, it seems like there's a bunch of showmances this year. Everybody is linking up. Leah, Cam, possibly, Rubina, Tucker, T-Core. That's like a little triangle because I think Rubina kind of likes Tucker, but Tucker would like T-Core, but T-Core got a man outside that's waiting for her. So she's like, I'm not trying to F that up. It's just a lot playing into not only the alliances but the potential showmances. Matt thinks he like is gonna have something with Mackenzie and she's like, be very clear. You're like, okay, you fine, possibly. Maybe she thinks he's attractive that way. But she's like, I came here to win $750,000, boo. Like, thank you very much. If we talk on the outside, maybe. But he's like totally leaning into the showman's thing. And he thinks, oh yeah, you know, when we get out of here, we're gonna be dating. And like, it's just so crazy. The showmances are shaking up to be another variable in this equation that I'm just so excited to see play out. My current ranking for the players, I have it from most well-positioned to least well-positioned in the game as of today. Number 1, I have as Chelsea. I think she's insulated herself well with numbers, potential alliances. She is very, very accurate with her reads in the house. So far, I think she's only been wrong about the power app, but she knows where the house is kind of leaning in terms of who they want to get out, who they want to target. And I think she's very quick and able to keep up with what's going on. She's very likable in terms of her personality. She's not too quiet. She's not too loud. Her and Cedric are in a different position where she getting the down votes this week doesn't hurt them because they were not going to be nominated based off of what the house decided. But also, they have any plausible deniability about what happens with the votes this week. So if Matt goes home, Kenny's not going to be against them. MJ is not going to be against them. I think those are Matt's 2 only allies at this point. So you're not going to piss off those people. Let's say Kenny or MJ wins HOH. You can't put me up. I didn't have anything to do with that. So I think Chelsea and Cedric are in my number 1 and number 2 rankings right now for almost the same thing. I think Chelsea edges out Cedric in that some of his game talks, he lets information slip out that probably shouldn't. He had a conversation with Matt and said to Matt, you know, Matt goes, worst case scenario, like, I get put up on the block this week or something like that. And Cedric said to him, no, worst case scenario is you get put up on the block, everybody tells you that they're gonna vote for you, and you go home if you don't win the arena comp, like, because everybody's gonna vote you out. And Matt is still under the assessment, and I would keep him under the assessment that everything's copacetic. Like, he prefaced the end of that statement when he was talking to Matt, Cedric, by saying, but you know, I don't have a vote, so it's not gonna be me that sends you home, but you know, the house could send you home. That's the worst case scenario. And I'm like, why would you tell him that? Like, keep that idea furthest from his mind so that he doesn't turn around and think that you're telling him or giving him some insight about him actually possibly going home so that he goes and starts campaigning. So I think Cedric kind of slips up in conversation sometimes, and he plays very passively where he's like, you know, I don't have to get active in game mode unless I feel like I'm in danger, which is not really a good position to have. Like, you always should be fact finding, always trying to extract information from people and not just be chilling every day. Because then it gives the appearance that you're not playing or that you're not an active participant. And it's like, well, then why would I want to work with you if you're not doing your lift or your part for the benefit of my game? And if I'm working with you as an alliance member. So I think for these early weeks, it's kind of a good position to play in the middle, but it'll come out or be to his detriment because these early weeks are when people are solidifying their relationships. I think he's still in a good position though for week 1. Number 1 would be Chelsea. Number 2 would be Cedric. Number 3, I'm gonna say Quinn. Quinn has the power, which is why I'm ranking him a little bit higher. How he plans to use it is actually more effective than the traditional idea, which would be to hack someone else's HOH. Him hacking his own HOH, I think if he does it right with the nominations, it could really boost his credibility with other people and decrease the suspicion that would arise from hacking the HOH. In terms of alliances, he's doing great. In terms of being seen as a target, he's also doing great. There's other targets that are, you know, bigger than he is, so he's still relatively insulated. He benefits from Matt leaving because other than the 2 people, Chemo and Angela, that he's told about the power explicitly, that suspicion that Matt has in terms of narrowing down who else has the power kind of goes out the door once he leaves. Hasn't really gotten out yet that he has this advantage. I do take points off for the fact that he didn't keep the information to himself initially in the first week, because in terms of the 2 people that he told, or if he was gonna tell people, like Chemo and Angela are probably the worst people that he could have told. I get it, Angela's the HOH, Chemo you're trying to build alliances with and you feel very close to him, but Chemo's on the block and Angela has turned out to be a leaky faucet. So how beneficial was it that you told them about the power, you know? So I would rank him as number 3. Kind of for the same reasons. My number 4 is Cam, number 5 is Brooklyn. I think their games are kind of interchangeable at this point. They're still trying to suss out who they want to work with. They're not in a bad position because they're not likely to be targets next week. And you know, Cam is potentially throwing this competition in which I would rank him maybe a little bit lower than Brooklyn. But in terms of insulation, being a protected body in the house going into week 2, I think they're in a good spot. T-Core has gone up from where she was initially. I think the talk that she had with other people, that especially like, you know, Cedric and others coming to tell her that Matt was throwing her name out there. I know she says that it takes her a minute to start building relationships with people, so it was how she like entered the game really slowly and is now picking up steam. And I think, Mimi, I love you, but that is what Mimi failed to do until it was too late. I think T-Core got that bump in her, or the pep in her step, on the fact that she could actually possibly go home, and it's allowed her to really come out of her shell and turn her afterburners on and make those connections and the relationships that she's gonna need further along in this game. She comes off very personable. Her, Chemo, I know she likes Lisa, but I don't think Lisa's best for her game. I think her working with Quinn for sure. Going forward, Lisa, you know, some of the other people in the house, where if it does turn out to be a split in the house again after Matt leaves, because Angela's still there, she's still in a good spot, and she's made herself go from potential pawn on the block to not really discussed as an option. However, I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of a negative in that your name has already been thrown out there. So it's probably likely that they would still consider you to go up on the block in future weeks. But as of right now, I think people really like her and they don't see her as a threat to their game. So if she can continue to build those relationships and those connections, I think she'll be okay. So T-Core would probably be who I would rank next. Tucker, the same reason. Tucker, I think why I would rank him under T-Core, not in terms of his likelihood of going on the block, but more so because Tucker has a way of talking a lot. Like, he will go on and on and on about talking negatively about people, and I think that's gonna trip him up in the future, because you don't want to be talking bad about somebody to a person that they could potentially be working with behind the scenes. I think that's why Angela thinks that Tucker is playing her this week, because, you know, he's talking about Lisa in a negative light, and her and Lisa are not getting along at this point. They blocked it out on the feeds. She might feel that he's coming from a standpoint where you're trying to butter me up to make it seem like you're not really aligned with my enemy, but really he genuinely doesn't like Lisa because she just throws glitter on everything and she insulted his cooking. So he's a petty pasta. He wants her gone because of that. And I think his emotions in terms of how he communicates with people and how he dislikes certain people might catch him or might bite him in the butt in the future. So I think he's well positioned now. I don't think he's gonna go home, but he might want to rein it back a little bit. Rubina, I placed her at 8. She's kind of in the middle of the road for me. I think she said she felt a little bit isolated this week, and you can kind of see that in the way that she talks to people. I don't think it's intentional. I think she's still just trying to find her footing, but she also has really good reads. She was the one that initially brought up to Angela, like, if you put Matt on the block, we will send him home. And Angela was kind of questioning that when she was thinking about who the Renom was gonna be. And Rubina was very like, she's in it. She knows what's going on. She's aware. I just think she is having a harder time dealing with all the personalities and finding out where she belongs right now. So in terms of some other people that might have more options in terms of alliances, she's not on that level, so that's why I kind of placed her in the middle. Leah, for the same reason, she told Lisa this week that she was the one that threw out Lisa's name to Angela, and that's what initially made her a target. She also told her in that conversation that she associates threat with an enemy. So she told Angela, like, hey, you know, Lisa's a threat and our enemy. And when Lisa's hearing this conversation, if I was her, I'd be like, ooh, I know you're confessing to me now and you're admitting that you had a hand in me going up, but you would not be somebody that I would keep close unless it's purely to monitor or get or gain favor from you. Leah, I think her conversations sometimes have a way of just being very all over the place and more so about person and like personality and not necessarily about game, and that's gonna come to bite her in the butt eventually. Other people are having strategies and game talk around you, you're not in it. And Leah is more about, I think, connecting with people at this point, which is not a bad thing, but it's a bad thing in the game of Big Brother. You're there specifically to build relationships, build alliances, win competitions, make it to the end of this game. And Leah, if I were someone in the house, Leah would be actually a good person to take towards the end, only because she doesn't seem like someone that can articulate her game very well, just based off of how she tells stories in the house. And that would be something that I would take a mental note of, because if you can't tell people about your game, like last season, BB25, arguably, in my opinion, Matt played the better strategic game, but the way that he articulated that at Final Jury was absolutely garbage and terrible. And that, I think, cost him the money and the win. So I think Leah would kind of be the same way, where she would just be very, she doesn't articulate her stories in a very clear, concise, and succinct way, but she also is more about liking people and getting people to like her and getting to know people and getting people to know about her than she is focused on the game at this point. So that's why I have to rank her so far down. Joseph, same way. I think he started off very well, started off making connections, but this dreaded power seems to loom over his head, and he cannot escape the conversations and speculation that he has the advantage. And I don't think he's done a good job of convincing people at this point, because they have it pretty set in their minds that he has the power. But also, he is potentially gonna go home next week if he gets nominated, if Matt stays, because Matt kind of doesn't trust him anymore. A lot of people in the house went from wanting to build alliances with him when he's not even in the room to coming into a situation where week 2 you could potentially be put up on the block, if not as a target, but as a pawn. And I think he's gone down in my rankings because he has set himself up for week 2 in a not so good, he went from a good position to a not so good position. I would rank Chemo under him. I know Chemo is on the block, so technically he should be in the bottom 3 in anybody's like rational assessment. However, I think Chemo, his personality and how he's communicated with people so far, it makes people want to work with him. Like, I don't think in any situation, which is like the best case scenario when you're on the block, is you want to be up next to somebody where they're like, there's no way we would vote you out. And Chemo is in that position where if he stays up on the block tonight against Kenny, Kenny's going home. If he stays up on the block tonight against Matt, Matt's going home. Matt and Kenny's both scenario, or both options, or best case scenario for staying in the house, rely on them being on the block together. So Chemo is in a good position because anyway the votes, or anyway the noms shake up, he could potentially be here week 2, and he's ensuring his safety for week 2, and he could play HOH, and he could win HOH. We just don't know. So Chemo, I think, is in a better position. The next person, which is Lisa. Lisa, again, the way that she communicates, I think the first couple of weeks, how you talk to people and people are still getting their feelers out for you is really important in the game. And Lisa has a condescending tone, and it's completely inadvertent. Lisa, when she talks to people, she talks to them almost like a school teacher talking to a little kid or something, or like directing people like she's directing an elderly person in how to cross the street. Okay, you put your left foot where your right foot is, and you go forward and you cross the street. I wouldn't take that position. Like, the way that she talks is very condescending in tone. She's pissing people off with the glitter. It would piss me off with the glitter if I was eating my food after being a have-not for the entire week, and then you go put glitter on my food. Like, don't mess with my food. Like, I think she is inadvertently irritating people, and her personality and what she's saying and how she's talking to people is coming off very wrong, and she's putting herself in a worse position if Matt goes home. And she's open to working with Matt. Like, position wise, you have to think about who potentially comes back with allies. If Matt stays, and let's say Kenny goes home, Kenny is one of Matt's numbers. Going into next week, how much pull do you think Matt has numerically with how many people are left in the house in order to try and keep him? The risk assessment to keeping Matt in the house, which is what she kind of is weighing her options to do, and she's very open to having Matt stay, it kind of doesn't make sense from a sense where she's like, yeah, you know, he stays, he's a bigger target, people will more likely get him out. Yeah, they're gonna try and get him out by putting him on the block, and guess who's going to be sitting next to him? You, Lisa, because you were already nominated once. So if you were nominated once, they could put you up again, and that's likely what will happen, and she's going to end up in a position where she's fighting for her life and veto again. So Lisa, to me, is not making the connections. She thinks that she's in alliance with Quinn and Tikor as of yesterday, and I don't see that materializing into something that's actual that could help her. She's just irritating the house, and you can't do that. Can't do that in this game. MJ is my next ranked. I think after Matt goes, she becomes the next target, especially if people are able to suss out that she has a power and they switch from Lisa has the power, Joseph has the power, to MJ probably has the power, and that's why Matt felt so comfortable this week. If that tone changes, she's gonna be a target if she doesn't win HOH. So she's really relying on the fact that she has to win in order to try and solidify some numbers going into next week, because they're just not gonna want to be put up. Angela gets put up by MJ, and then what? Like, she's gonna piss off two other people by putting two other people. You put up Lisa, who's your third nom? Chemo again. That could very well be the nominations, and I think that would probably draw the least amount of blood in terms of how things shake out. But yeah, she's not in a good position this week, even though she has the power. She's higher than how I have Angela, Kenny, and Matt ranked, but it's not looking good for MJ. I have, just like I just said, Angela, Kenny, and Matt ranked. Angela is over it. You saw it when they were singing happy birthday to Lisa's brother, and she just sat there, was not engaged. Seems like her paranoia is taking over, and people that genuinely would have worked with her going into this next week want probably nothing to do with her. They're not against her. So I think there's certain people that she could get away with being on the block for week 2, and it would shake out okay, but she's not doing herself any favors this week, and she missed out on a alliance that would have. So it's crazy how like stuff switches so easily in this game, because that one moment where she's like, and the performance that these people tried to give me when they were really trying to actually include her in an alliance, when she watches this back, that's probably gonna be her game losing moment. Kenny, same thing. He has talked up and down this week about not wanting to be in the house anymore. I take the standpoint as the people that watch a challenge and the people that watch Survivor, seeing quitters annoys the crap out of me, because it's like, then you should have stayed home. If you have no motivation to play this game, you should have stayed home or go home. Don't sit there and let somebody else go this week that potentially would have wanted to stay. So I think Kenny he's lost motivation to play because his boy Matt is on the block. But going into the next week, he's gonna easily be thrown up if he's not the target. It's just, it makes sense by everybody, no matter who wins HOH, to put him on the block going into week 2. And the same thing kind of goes for Matt. Matt is the most likely person to go home tonight, so I have to rank him at the bottom. But if he does happen to stay, he is in the worst position going into week 2. So I have no hope for him or Kenny at this point. But I guess we'll just tune in, see how everything turns out tonight. I am super duper, I know I keep saying this, I'm so excited, but I really am excited. Because I think the way that this twist plays out, it's so much better than BB Fest or whatever, that twist where they had to like separate the house and some people were inside, some people were outside. And it was horrible in terms of twists. The battle back was terrible last year, which Cameron and Jared played like to come back into that. Well, really Cameron played to come back into the house. So in terms of twists go, I would rank this maybe like a 5 or a 6, but we'll see how it plays out tonight, because maybe I'll give it like an 8 if they do extend it for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think BB26 is definitely shaking up to be a good season. It's entertaining on the live feeds. I am so curious to see where they go from here, but I will continue to make and give you guys my assessment as the weeks progress. We are going into the live eviction episode tonight. They did change the schedule, so most of the episodes will air at 8. The 8 o'clock time slot is so much better. Like Survivor starts at 8. Why can't Big Brother start at 8? Unless their seasons are conflicting, like. But anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you don't follow me on Twitter for all my live feed takes, you should. I will link it down below. And go ahead and follow me. I follow back, because I love to hear everybody's assessments of the game, and like I'm in BB tunnel vision for the next 2 months. But yeah, if you go ahead and like this video, comment down below your thoughts. Do you think my assessments are accurate? Do you think they're wrong? What would you say about this week? And I will be back with you guys again next week with the same recap and reactions and rankings. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys later. Bye.